Hello, welcome to my video going over my barbarian SlangingChad, and I'm going to give a bit of an introduction to this character, information about the build. I'm going to go over his stats, his skills, the items, the gear that he uses. This is my Dclone killer, throw barbarian, throw barb Dclone killer. He's a good mapper. He does a lot of things, but mostly I think it's kind of interesting for the Dclone kills. I do have recorded the first Dclone kill that I did, so I'm going to show that after this portion of the video. But this is just introducing. He has basically the same stats and the same items that I used in the video, and I've killed Dclone a bunch of times since then. I think I'm 5 for 5 right now with this character, so it's becoming pretty reliable, and he's only had a couple of minor changes, just improved mostly his Annihilus and Torch. I actually found a really nice Annihilus and a nice Torch since then, but everything else is basically the same, maybe a couple different charms. But I'm going to go over all the items, his inventory, his stats, his skills. So let's jump into that right now. He's got on swap to buff himself up. He's got 2 grandfathers, +4 war cries, and +5 war cries, the only stat that you care about, because you want to buff up your battle orders as much as you can to make yourself really tanky, lots of HP. This guy basically is a super tank. And then you just kind of stack Deadly Strike and some other stats to buff up your damage. So these are his main hand-throwing weapons. Ethereal Wraith Flight with a flat ED Corruption. So this has 556 max damage, which is not even all that high for a throwing weapon. I mean, it's good. You can definitely do the fight with this type of a weapon. But, you know, you can get much higher on throwing weapons, so you don't really need some insane max damage throwing weapon to do this. Something around 550 is just fine. And the other throwing weapon that I have is an Ethereal Lacerator, and it's got an ED and Deadly Strike Corruption. And this is a really nice corruption to have. I would say on one of your throwing weapons, it's really nice to get Deadly Strike on at least one of them. The enhanced damage is a nice bonus. That hybrid corruption is probably the best in slot, and you definitely want to have a Lacerator also. The other throwing weapon doesn't matter as much, but this also has 30 increased attack speed, making this a very fast throwing weapon. And you need also to set up your weapons in this order and do a couple of tricks with the weapon speed bug to reach the highest breakpoints with this character. Also, I'm using Faith on the Mercenary to help reach that breakpoint, and I can show that a bit more after I'm just going to continue going through his gear and his items, and then I can show how to use the weapon speed bug. But for Dclone, it doesn't matter as much because your mercenary isn't going to be with you very long. At least mine's not. The way that I built her, it's mostly a solo fight. I'm not sure if you could really get a mercenary to survive in there, but anyway, it's not really important for the Dclone fight as much. But you don't really reach the highest increased attack speed breakpoints without the fanaticism from a faith mercenary. But again, not needed for Dclone. So we're just gonna keep going over the solo items here. So those are the weapons. The gloves are very important for the Dclone fight. Soul Drainers for a couple of reasons. For one, it's got minus physical resistance, which is just nice for your DPS, but actually the main stat is the minus to monster defense per hit, because Dclone has very high defense, so it's going to be difficult to hit him, and since we're doing all physical damage, we rely on our weapons or on our attacks to hit him. So this will chunk down his defense over time and allow you to reliably hit him without having really high attack rating. So attack rating definitely helps. You want to stack dexterity and attack rating. I have pretty good attack rating, but you really want to ensure that over time you can hit Diablo reliably, and this will allow you to do that. And it really kind of works with the build in general, because like I mentioned, you're going to be a very tanky, like high HP fighter. So it's going to be kind of a long fight also. You don't do like tons of damage, and you have to kite around, and you can't really stop and throw your weapons for a really long time. So you have to kite around a lot. It's going to be a bit longer than some other builds might be able to do the fight, some other classes. But that works with this method though, because over time you're going to hit Diablo a lot, and you're going to chunk down his defense, and then it's going to become easier over time to hit Diablo. And also, one thing I forgot to mention on the Lacerator, in addition to the increased attack speed, you of course have the chance to cast amp damage, and that's very important for increasing your damage overall. This is a great source to get it from because you have a really high chance to proc this, 33%, and especially against Dclone because he has very high curse reduction time. So the curses do not last very long on him, so you need to keep reapplying this over and over again. So you need to keep hitting him quickly and with a high proc chance. So this is very useful for keeping amp damage on him for as long as you can. It still doesn't last very long, but it works enough to increase your DPS. Now the main like 2 Dclone specific items, I would say, or a couple, I guess there's a few, but the Guardian Angel is probably the main one. Most people use this against Dclone. You don't have to, but it has such good plus max resist innately, and then you can slam it, you can puzzle box it. So this one has a plus max fire resist slam, and plus fire resist, the plus max fire resist hybrid slam. So, and then puzzled for 2 open sockets, put in 2 low runes to increase max lightning res. So it's got 6 plus 6 cold res, 14 lightning res, 9 max fire res. Pretty close to perfect stats for as far as a Guardian Angel goes for a Dclone, because you want to have either a similar GA to this with 3 open sockets, or another one of these max res slams with 2 open sockets. Then you can get the most out of this slot in terms of max res. So you can see my max res is 95 fire, 88 cold, 92 lightning. You're going to want to max out fire, and then somewhere, like, you know, as much as you can for lightning and cold, basically. You don't have to worry about poison, but most of the attacks are fire. He has the Fire Nova, the Fire Storm, then there's Bone Spirits and Meteors that also have fire damage. And then he's got his lightning attack, the Lightning Breath, the Lightning Hose, that can chunk you down pretty fast. And then his Nova, the Bale Nova, the Firebolt Nova, his cold damage. He doesn't do that very often, but it does hit very hard, so you need to definitely think about max cold resist also. So most of that is coming from my Guardian Angel here, and then I've also got a Crown of Ages. Chosen mostly for the high damage reduction. It gives you all resists. High damage reduction in 3 open sockets though. So I can put in even more runes to give me more max resists. So I'm getting 4 cold resist from an Om rune, an Ohm rune, and then 8 max fire res from 2 Vexes. So you need to stack damage reduction also. I have 14 damage reduction from a COA, and then I have 13 here from a Verdungo's. And this also has a really nice slam, +2 to all max resists. So that's just helping me even more to reach these breakpoints. And 95 is the maximum max fire resist. You can't go higher than 95 for any of these resists. So this helps, and then I have a High Lords with +1 to all max resists. And you could get +2 on an amulet, but not really, not totally necessary. Once you start to hit around these numbers with this kind of a build, it seems to be pretty safe, pretty reliable. So then I just have a Raven Frost and a Dwarf Star. You're going to want some items with Cold Absorb and Fire Absorb. So this has 8 Fire Absorb, and I got 10 Cold Absorb on the Raven Frost, so max for both of those items, and then just some nice slams to help out. And then Gore Riders with 3 PDR, Corruption, again just stacking damage reduction, and these are just really nice for Deadly Strike, Crushing Blow, Open Wounds, all that good stuff. Raven Frost has some extra nice stats also, like extra dexterity, attack rating, so that's really nice to have. Let's see. So you can also see my stat sheet real quick. So you can see my resist again, 95, 88, 92. You can see also though my fire resist is way higher. I'm at 124. And you're gonna want that also. You want to overcap your fire resist by at least 30. I've heard even up to 50. Because when you get hit by a Bone Spirit in the Dclone fight, that lowers your resists, and there's fire damage all around you. So once you get hit by a Bone Spirit, this is going to drop much lower. So you want to have it higher than 95 so that you can kind of mitigate that damage. And I do that mostly through charms. I can show my inventory in a second. But I wanted to show also, so I'm at 36 damage reduction. That wasn't quite everything from the items. I have 27 between the belt and the helmet, and then 30 when you add in the boots. But Barbarian, the nice thing about Barbarian is they have some damage reduction from their skills. So Iron Skin, every 2 base levels you get 1% damage reduction. So again, just helping out being super tanky, and that gets me to 36 damage reduction, which is pretty good for this fight. So, oh yes, I was going to show my inventory, and then I'll go into the rest of the skills and the stats. So you can see I have a bunch of fire resist charms, plus life charms, all res small charms, some faster hit recovery, run walk, cold resist. It's all resist and plus life charms pretty much. Obviously, all resist charms are nice, and fire resist charms are really nice. So, and plus life on pretty much everything is what you want. And then I showed just nice Annihilus and Hellfire torch. But I actually, when I did the fight the first time, I had much lower Annihilus and lower torch. So you don't need this much HP. I can show when I buff myself up. So I have around 3k before I swap, and 2600 HP now when I swap back to my throwing weapons. But you do not need this much HP. I believe the first time I did it, I had closer to 2450 or maybe just under 2500. So I've probably picked up another 100 HP and some resists since then, but not 100% necessary again. So, the rest of the charms are all war cries, except for one resist all res plus lifer. So some pretty nice war cries charms. I got some 40s, 42, 30s. And then 115 all res, again, just to help out with the resists. This could be another Warcry charm, but if you need help reaching the resist, because I'm not getting too much from my gear up here, you can throw in one of these charms too. So now we can look at the stats, the skills. You are a throw barb, so you're going to be using double throw, your main attack. So you need to get the prerequisite frenzy, and then double swing is the only synergy, so you're going to want to max that out. Those are the only combat skills you're going to need. Combat masteries, you max out throwing mastery, buffs up your damage for all your throwing attacks. And then, so you're going to want to max that, and then you're going to want to max battle orders. So you need the prerequisites, and then you get 1 point in battle command. And then you're going to want to put most of the rest of your points into Iron Skin and Natural Resist. You put like 1 point into combat reflexes, or a couple of points, depending if you want to get a different breakpoint for faster hit recovery. Same with increased speed. You basically just put generally just 1 point into these, and then as much natural resistance as you need. I actually respect. I used to have more in this, again, because my charms were not as strong as they are now. So if you need to put more points into natural resist to help get your resist up for the fight, that's definitely a possibility. And you don't necessarily need this many points into Iron Skin, but the damage reduction will also help. So I wouldn't be mad at someone putting even more points than this into Iron Skin if you can get resists from somewhere else, or you don't need points in other things. And I also have 2 points spent, 1 in Find Potion and 1 in Find Item. So this is just because I still do maps, and I still do other things with this guy. These 2 points are totally unnecessary. I used to not have these skilled when I was doing the first Dclone attempt. A few of them I didn't have these skilled, but I have enough of a cushion now where I felt like I didn't need these points, and I was doing other things, so I thought, why not? There's still a little bit of give, but when you're doing it the first few times, maybe save these points. Put an extra couple points into Iron Skin or somewhere else. And then the stats, pretty straightforward. Just enough strength. The high strength requirement on this is the COA. Dexterity and vitality. I put a lot into vitality because, like I said, I want to be a tanky, high HP build, and then everything else into dexterity for attack rating, damage, defense, and that's about it. I want to show how the attack speed bug works, the weapon attack speed bug, at least as it was explained to me. This is an important part, especially outside of Dclone. Like I mentioned, you're going to have a mercenary, you want faith. So I can show how it works. You can see right now, every time you swap weapons, it'll reset also. So the way this works, if you notice when I'm throwing these weapons, there's 1 spear and 1 axe coming out, right? 1 spear and 1 axe. And if I do this, it changes. There's 2 spears, and he's chucking them a lot faster. And that is essentially the bug that you're trying to recreate. And what causes that? It's the order of the weapons that you're using and how you place them into these slots. If I switch back again, it goes back. See, one spear, 1 axe, slow throwing. You lift this up, you put it down, and it switches again. So the weapon speed used, as it was explained to me, this right hand let's see. Can we get this? So he's holding the spear in his left hand right now, right? But if we pick this up and put it down, now he's holding it in his right hand. So the order matters that you put these down in. And basically, the weapon that you put down first is what's going to be used for the weapon speed. So since we want to have this faster axe be used for the weapon speed instead of this slow attacking speed ghost glaive, we put this down first in this particular slot, also on the right hand side of the screen, right? The right hand slot. You put down the fast attacking weapon first. Then you lift up and put down the second weapon. And now you're bugged. Now you're throwing at the increased attack speed with both of these weapons. And you can use a tool, you can use the increased attack speed tool to figure in your mercenary. So my mercenary has a level 13 fanaticism, and this is what I'm concerned about hitting the breakpoint with. So you need to figure out the increased attack speed that it will take plus your mercenary's faith, fanaticism aura, to reach your breakpoint. And for me, it was an extra 20 increased attack speed with a level 13 fanaticism from faith. And then I've got the Lacerator, which has 30 increased attack speed, plus whatever the base speed of this winged axe is. And then the 20 increased attack speed from High Lords. It lets me hit the max breakpoint after you do the weapon speed bug. Without it, this is not at the fastest breakpoint. So every time I swap, I do this. You just get into the habit of doing that, and then that's how you reach the breakpoint while saving a ton of attack speed on your build. Now, you don't need to use, like I said, against Diablo, like I don't have fanaticism. This is the way to build it for, like, you know, soloing, for mapping. You're gonna want to use fanaticism, but like against Dclone, you can't have your merc in there. You know, you don't necessarily need to go for the max IAS breakpoint though. Like that's something that you can do, but it's just easier to use soul drainers, to use some other items, so you're not going to be reaching the breakpoint solo. Like without your mercenary, it doesn't really make sense. If you wanted to, you know, you can try changing the build around, doing other things with increased attack speed. Maybe you could reach some other breakpoints, but you don't really need it in the Dclone fight. So you're not going to have your mercenary. You don't have to worry about the attack speed bug when you're in there. I still like just do this after every weapon swap and every buff, just to make sure that I'm at like the best attack speed breakpoint that I can get to, if there's any benefit from the swap. But not super important for the Dclone fight. That's just more for mapping and for your mercenary. And I guess I could show the rest of the mercenary. A Templar's is really nice for this build also. The Might Aura for amping up your damage. And then an Endariel's basically just so she could wear the Templars. I think at this point she's a high enough level where she doesn't need that. But yeah, that's basically it for this guy, for the mercenary. I think I went over everything. You don't really need too much. You want some faster hit recovery. Oh, Deadly Strike. So the other thing he has when he's not fighting Dclone, a two throw is the next thing you want to use, so you can stack your Deadly Strike up. And you can see with the Lacerator and with a two throw, he's got 94 Deadly Strike. And just for good measure, I've even got a nice pair of Steel Rends with high ED and a Deadly Strike mod. So just to hit 100 Deadly Strike on this guy. It's really nice for pumping up your damage. You're going to want to stack Deadly Strike if you're doing mapping. But it's also very important against Dclone too, because you're going to have this armor on. So you still have really high Deadly Strike though. 68. Oh, this is without the Soul Drainers. So The only other Deadly Strike corruptions that I have Deadly Strike on the Lacerator, which is really nice, and then where am I getting Deadly Strike? Oh, from High Lords. So you definitely want to have a High Lords for this fight with this build, and with plus max res is the corruption of choice. Because you need this for the increased attack speed, the Deadly Strike, and that's really going to keep your DPS up even when you're sacrificing like some other pieces, like the armor. The Tooth Row would be way better for DPS, or like a COA for like an Ariats or something. You're not going to have as much DPS, but if you have high Deadly Strike and you have amp damage, and you have Soul Drainers, then you can hit him, you can do damage, and you have decent enough Deadly Strike, but you're also tanky enough to be in there and be taking a bunch of hits and a bunch of elemental damage over time. So that's kind of the idea behind this guy. Hope that was a good overview of the character. Maybe I'll even show this after the video. Maybe you've already seen the Dclone. I'm going to figure that out later. And if anyone's got any questions about this guy or about Dclone or anything in PD2, just let me know, and I hope you enjoyed it. Bye!